2025 at 6 p.m. This meeting is broadcast live on Spectrum Cable Channel 1303 and streamed simultaneously on the Town of Bucksport's YouTube channel. Okay, call to order. Roll call. Councillor Bishop.
Here.
Councillor Rabs.
Here.
Councillor Hare. Okay, for discussion items, we had a recommendation from citizens in Bucksport as well as Councillor Rankin to explore a resolve to waive interest on the first half of property taxes for 25-26 until October 31st, 2025.
Again, just looking for a recommendation from the committee.
Yes, I think that's reasonable, given the fact in the past with some of our tax scenarios where we've delayed the due date of receiving taxes, pushed it back 30 days, given this particular scenario that we're in, and the fact that we've already positioned ourselves with a loan to front the money in lieu of taxes in the receipt. As long as this doesn't affect our operating money, then I have no problem with allowing that to transpire.
It's very little consequence to
Correct.
operating.
Roughly $650 is what during this time period was last
Councillor
year.
Rabs?
I'm in agreement with the,
So do we have a motion on the table to move the recommendation to council?
Yes, we do. Motion to move to
Uh,
council.
Second? That will be on the council agenda for this evening, not next month.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
okay, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Carries. The second item on the agenda, I've been talking with Jacob and Mayor Bissonnette about unpacking some of the suggestions that have come to council related to easing our tax burdens and so forth. Part of that process will take some time. Some of those may gain traction, some may not. But part of that recommended by the Mayor Bissonnette was to explore a balance forward and fund balance policy. And I don't know if Jacob, you have any context with that.
Yep. Fund balance policy, I think we can do B and C kind of together. Most municipalities have a fund balance policy, and Bucksport technically does have a fund balance policy. During the mill years, the town's fund balance policy was 3 months of operating expenses plus 25% of the mill's taxes. That was your fund balance policy. Now, obviously, that is long past due or long out of date, and so as we talked through the audit process with the auditor, felt that now is a good time, just given kind of where we're at with our fund balance, to reprioritize, establish, where do we see ourselves? What direction do we want to go in? How do we get to that point? And that's kind of where the balance forward side of it comes in. I included in your packet some background on it, what some of the recommendations are, and also some communities around us, what their fund balance policy looks like. What I will say is the Town of Brunswick policy that I included in there is essentially the not the gold standard, but this is what most fund balance policies look like. It's kind of a copy and paste, change the name of the municipality. This is kind of the standard across the board. Some towns do it a little bit differently, but this is the most common one that I have run into. And so I think the purpose of this evening is just really to start that discussion. The recommendation is typically 2 months worth of operating expenses or operating revenues, whichever are more predictable. But I guess that's where I am kind of looking for the council's input as far as where do we see ourselves and how do we see ourselves getting to that point.
One question, did the auditor mention a 90-day period? Do you have a preference versus the 2 months versus 3 months?
60 days is the minimum.
Okay.
But generally the policies are written that you try to stay between 60 to 90 days. Yeah. But he did talk about 90 days
Yeah.
from that.
Sure.
90 days, I believe you used the word ideal.
I think it was really helpful with, I'm not sure if this was the town of Brunswick. It was Brunswick. It showed the reporting schedule for finance, I think, which, because to have the financials presented at every month at every finance meeting is more than one would need. It's more of a quarterly sort of reporting schedule, but I see with Brunswick, they've laid it out annually for the fund balance piece, so, which is good to understand.
It's interesting you bring that up. I was thinking about that, about how when we started talking about reestablishing this finance committee meeting monthly, and how we had talked about being able to lay everything out for like a monthly statement. However, I think quarterly or or at least every 6 months at minimum. Quarterly is probably better. What I don't want to happen is some of us have sat here and wondered.
Sure.
I just don't think it should be a time frame that allows anyone to wonder, but also to allow a little bit of wiggle room where sometimes things are up in the air.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that respect, what's reasonable for a finance director? Do you have any input on that at all, Rachel, or
I think quarterly.
quarterly? Okay.
Quarterly gives you, it is easier to form a picture of kind of where things are at from a quarterly perspective. Looking at where you're at 25%, 50%, 75%
Okay.
throughout the year. I think quarterly is pretty standard
I was
in that sense.
So I think that's fine as we move forward and adopt this, if we're getting quarterly or doing quarterly reports.
So I wonder, Jacob, if finance has the time and you have the time to sort of draft one related to Bucksport and bring it to the next finance committee meeting as a first draft.
Mhm.
How does the committee feel about that?
I think that's great. The sooner we get something established, we can tweak it along the way. But the sooner we get a baseline to follow and improve upon to start a road forward, the better.
So 60 to 90 days is what
Yeah.
we'll have in the policy.
Okay.
And, we'll get that drawn up.
Any more comment on the fund balance policy and balance forward? And so this is sort of part of the subsidy arrangements that the next item on the agenda, part of the subsidy arrangements we have with other towns, and this is probably, we've picked sort of the items that would take the longest to work through, mostly because it wouldn't be helpful to just throw a town off a cliff with raising subsidies, so it's gonna take more thought, more meetings, and so we put this very early in the considerations. It's, even though it's a budget thing for next year's budget. So I don't know, Jacob, if you wanted to.
Yeah,
talk
I would
about that.
just absolutely say that I don't think it's ever too early to start talking about this, because depending on what the council decides, there will need to be back and forth between us and these other communities that we're serving. They're gonna need, if there's an increase, they're gonna need to budget for it. So I think the sooner that we can come up with a plan, the better to allow the time, because it is gonna take some time to get here. And again, I think tonight we just wanna start the dialogue, start the conversation as to, kind of where the council is at with this. I have included in your packets just an animal shelter subsidy policy, because that to me seemed a little more simple than the fire and ambulance side of things. Essentially, what I have proposed, and again, it's certainly up for discussion, is taking the net expense of animal control, animal shelter, the net expense, that is the expenses minus any revenues that we collect from adoptions and anything else, and dividing that up amongst the population that it serves, and coming up with some sort of per capita rate that is the same for all municipalities. Right now, our per capita rate is $1. We charge $1 to all of these communities, and Bucksport essentially pays the rest. So you can see, kind of using round numbers, and these certainly aren't exact, but using round numbers, what that works out to be is $1 for, Orland, Orrington, Penobscot, Prospect, Searsport, Stockton, Winniport, Dedham, and Newburgh, and then over $8 for Bucksport. So
I wasn't keeping count of how many municipalities, how many are we currently serving?
12.
9, I believe.
No.
1, 2, 3,
Outside of Bucksport.
9 outside of Bucksport.
Outside of us.
So if we were to kind of redistribute that and make the per capita the same across the board, it would increase that to $2. Again, using numbers in the current year budget, those will change, given next year's budgetary numbers, presumably. But that per capita rate would increase to $2.60, which would be the same across the board. So what I will tell you, that might sound like a big jump, but in the community that I managed previously, which is a town of less than 4,000 people, we paid, I believe, just shy of $8,000 per year to the Waterville Humane Society. So that would equate to a little bit more than $2 per capita. I truly don't feel as though this is unreasonable.
No, not at all, and to jump ahead, when we're talking about the other communities that we service, what we charge per capita, we're talking $33 and $27. So this is for the service provided and for what we have for resources compared to what those other communities don't. This is very reasonable to divide the cost.
And Autumn, our animal control officer, is here if we have, not to put you on the spot, Autumn, but if there are any specific animal control questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer. But
Well, go ahead.
When we're spreading, I like this idea a lot. I don't like the idea of us paying 8 times what every other town is paying. But all of our services for the animal shelter all billed under just Bucksport, right? We cover all of it. There's no other, like,
sure.
yeah, I'm not sure what I mean either. I guess, so, bear with me. There's no other contribution from any other town to the animal shelter program is what I mean, besides the per capita.
They
In labor, in,
Why don't you guys
contribute.
come on up to the podium and lay it out if you want.
She handles more than I do, obviously, but if we take an animal in from another community, we bill them for the first 10 days. And then after the 10th day, the animal becomes ours for adoption. If we take an animal in that requires medical treatment, needs to be fixed, neutered, spay, we bill those other communities. But once they become ours and there's a lengthy stay before adoption, they're ours.
it's helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
And that is how many days did you say before they become?
10.
10. Would it be helpful for us if we extended that time frame or not? Because if they're not ours, we probably can't necessarily adopt them out sooner within that time.
Yeah, it hurts us for turnover, and
Okay.
I can tell you, and Autumn can certainly speak to this way better than I can, but for us currently, space is a major issue.
So do we need to take it from 10 to 7? Is 10 good? Where are we at with that?
I mean, I'd say 7 or 10 would be fine.
Okay, so it's really nothing we need to
I feel
move.
like most
I don't think
communities do 7.
Okay,
It seems to be working okay now. The big issue for us really is cats. I mean, we have a good number of dogs, but currently I think we're at 22 cats in shelter and like 6 in foster. And that's difficult. So the faster we can turn them, the better.
In the first 10 days, David, what do we charge the towns, the other towns?
It's $9 a day per cat and then $12 a day per dog.
And is that fee comparable with other communities?
They're pretty cheap.
I suspect it's low.
We may want to look at that fee as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And we get a large number of animals from homes that are being addressed by animal welfare. So when they come to Autumn, they're in rough shape. And a lot of times we are required, or she's required, to traffic them to wherever they're gonna go for care. So,
The only piece about looking at that fee, in addition to raising this piece, I just worry a little bit about all at once on these towns.
And that could be, but I mean, it would seem if you're gonna send them to Waterville from Pittsfield, I mean, what's comparable there? I mean, what's that daily fee there?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I could find that out very easily.
I can tell you what we do sometimes to offset that is if after 10 days the animal becomes ours and then it's cared for at a vet or it's fixed, that's included in the adoption fee. So whoever's taking that animal
Takes that fee.
takes that fee.
And I will say, if you increase the per day fee, it's going to increase your revenue, which in turn decreases your net expense, which in turn decreases your per capita fee. So you're kind of looking at the same,
yeah.
no matter which road you go down.
And that would make more sense as far as, and looking at another municipality, looking at what we are doing, that would be reasonable for an expense for an actual product or services rendered as opposed to a per capita charge on the potential. So,
Right now, what you're basing this off is the expensive minus the adoption fees right now.
Correct. Currently, correct.
In 6 months, that's gonna be more. Next year, it's gonna be more.
Mhm.
Do we wanna make a little bit of adjustment now?
Well, I don't think that the intent here is for the council to set the per capita rate, but rather to set the policy that determines the per capita rate.
yeah,
If the way that this policy is written is that you take expenses minus revenues of the upcoming budget that gets adopted, and that determines the per capita rate. So that can fluctuate depending upon, the budgeted expenses for the upcoming year.
Okay.
So,
The sheltering 7 to 10 day thing wouldn't be included in the subsidy policy though, right? You would be, or would you?
no, I think that's in that must be in our fee schedule,
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Luke, I'm looking at you.
And Luke recently did that.
So that's something that's done at the council level. The council can do that at any time.
Okay.
But we do up a contract with each of these municipalities, and it does list the dollar amount, $9 per day for cats, $12 for dogs, so it would be good to determine that ahead of time and not after the fact.
Questions? Seeing as there's a category here under other priorities, I'd like to keep going with our thought process, and it has to do with Hancock County and the money that we're paying over to the county to try and get some relief back. For example, my understanding that what we pay into the county really goes towards the jail, sheriff's office,
Yeah, we're not,
things of that type. where I'm heading with this is, they have an animal control officer for the county.
I see.
And they work in conjunction with the SPCA and the Humane Society. And when we had the issue over on Millvale, as I recall, with all the dogs and horses, et cetera, that they got into the loop. So I'm also asking if we can get the county engaged with this. I think that the rate, although we're not going to discuss this tonight, is a tad low for these other municipalities, that it wouldn't hurt to raise it up to $3 or $4 per, to carry on with that. The other thing regarding the county is, a couple weeks ago when Deputy Chief Winchester gave me all the numbers on the, for Bucksport Police and the sheriff, there was a note in there that the county law enforcement agencies are not on 24-hour-a-day active service, that they shut down at 1 o'clock at night for 6-7 hours, whatever that would be. Well, if it's 6 hours times 365 days a year, that's 2,100 and something. That's a man year's worth of work that we are responding to, and I'd like to see some relief out of it's just my 2 cents about getting some relief from the county on these. Our people are responding. They're at home. Our guys, men and women, are on the road, heading out to whatever's going on. So, and then back to the fire services and so forth. When we had the budget review, end of year budget review, the fellow came in from the organization and said they have algorithms that they can build in the cost of the ambulance, maintenance, repair, operations, cost of recertification, the cost of new rules, all these things that would enter in. Now, I don't know how you've generated these numbers, whether it's an old formula or whether, I'm sure for a slight phenomenal fee, they have the algorithms to run to come up with these numbers. But I can also tell you that just a few months ago from the city of Calais, they up there, first off here, for Verona, we provide both fire and ambulance service. And I think their rate should be a different rate than what we provide to Orland for only ambulance service. In the case of Calais, they had 2 rates. They had, I think, 3 or 4 municipalities up there that they shared services with, and they had a different rate. One town, one municipality was ambulance only, the other was fire and EMS. So I think we could look at those. Again, these numbers seem.
Close out the animal shelter one.
Pardon me?
Let's close out the animal shelter policy before we move to the ambulance and fire policy. Let's just close the loop on this one first.
Okay.
And hold those thoughts.
Okay.
If you can.
Yes.
All right, good. So back to the animal shelter policy. So for next steps, so I'm not sure where you land, Councillor Bishop, on the formula that Jacob suggested about the per capita. I think the piece about going to like $4 for other towns doesn't sort of fit that formula of this is divided by per capita, right? Every citizen resident in every town. So this seems to be sort of a.
I'd like to take a harder look at that fee structure element to add into that to see where that moves that number. So I feel like that's regardless of what the communities are paying, each individual community, I would hate to base these numbers off of the amount of communities that we have contributing now and have any of them drop off and lose the ability to service our current program. So if we took a look at what was actually happening for if one community had a substantial amount more cats than others, then it would make sense for what they were paying. They could tangibly see that amount. So I'd like to take a look at the formula from that angle before we pursue it. So I'd like to table this pending more information looking at it from that set of lenses.
Well, another option might be that if someone drops off, then for that particular calendar year, that the rates should be readjusted based on the number of municipalities that are participating. And I'd also, I think, like to see a CPI index included at the end of the year that, you know, how do you adjust your rates? Oh, we'll make it on CPI every year, you know, 2, 3, 5, whatever the percentage happens to be, but if somebody drops off, we still have to pay a person, we still provide a vehicle, we still provide, so if it drops from 10 down to 8, then it has to be just my,
Yeah, and the per capita formula would still apply, it
Yeah.
would just raise, yeah, good point. So, Jacob, can we table this piece and, at
Yeah.
the next finance meeting, get more information related to
Yes.
Councilor Bishop's?
Yeah, I don't think we're looking for action on any of these
Yeah.
things, tonight, just starting the discussion more or less.
And with Hancock County, I'm not even sure what that discussion would look like. I guess we'd have to look at what the current relationship is, right?
Well, there's also a volume issue. Listen, I
That's
mean,
what I was thinking, where,
with
we're
where we're
next.
at right now, if we're gonna increase our fees per capita, obviously, any municipality that's on that list is going to look and do their due diligence and shop around and see who else can provide the same service for less money. And this particular subject, from what I know of it, correct me if I'm wrong, but there really are very few options
Yeah.
for anyone to go. That's why they are with us, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. This isn't a money maker for the town. This is a service that needs to be provided to the region that we as Bucksport need to break even on, is what it comes down to. So when we look at these fee structures and putting this into play, it needs to be set up for the other communities to stay on and continue to provide the service.
the spreadsheet we have in front of us is break even,
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
okay? We're not out to gig anybody,
Right.
just
but
our
we,
fair share.
it shouldn't be, break even has a nice ring to it.
Well, break even for the level of service that is provided
Yeah.
within this is, we have a very good program. So as long as it can be paid for.
Autumn, do you have anything to add to the discussion? Okay, thanks for coming. All right, Councilor Rabs, now you can take it up. Where the next one is the ambulance subsidy policy.
Well, actually, I'm done, thanks.
You're done. Okay,
Anyway, I was pointing out, chatting about, there was a couple months ago, I'm pretty sure it was City of Callis, and I think the fire chief up there has some sort of a, correct me if I'm wrong, chief, but he's pretty involved with EMS in the county or statewide or whatever, but they have surrounding municipalities up there that some require fire service, some require fire and EMS. They had 2 different rates. They were going to raise from 10 to 25% increase per capita. I think they agreed on 15. How they arrived at that per capita rate, I don't know. I don't know if they use the algorithms that our accountant has or whether they have their own formula. But again, they had 2 different rates. And even these numbers we have on the spreadsheet are a little low based on the rates they were using. And again, would like to go back and have a CPI multiplier to come along and make adjustments at the end of every year. So that was my thought on 2 different rates, not 1 rate, but 2 different rates for 2 different services.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. I wasn't trying to propose one rate. I think if we have a town that's
Oh,
getting.
no, this is just an active
Yeah,
discussion, so,
Fire and
yeah.
ambulance, for sure. And I will certainly reach out to Ron. I think he will be able to possibly provide us with what other towns might be charging other services or other communities for service, or what other communities pay for services. But I am not 100% confident that he has algorithms that we'll be able to use, but I'll be happy to reach out to him. And again, I
I mean, we have $900,000+ just tied up in 3 ambulances. That's not people and supplies and insurances and recertifications and, I mean, it's embarrassing when I read the revenues that these two towns are paying us for, and what's on the, I'm done. You get the idea.
There's an element to that that is very important though that I want to acknowledge, and if Chief Denning or Director Gagan wanna come up and weigh in on this, is that we as Bucksport have a fire and EMS service combined. Orland has its own fire department. But we have a very strong mutual aid with that fire department as well, and when our EMS, based on the staffing that we have, is potentially low, then so is our fire. And oftentimes that is backfed by Orland. So anything that we do within this fee structure really needs to pay respect to the mutual aid agreements that we have between the two communities that kind of subsidize each other's manpower with, in regards to fire.
Yeah.
Because, like I just said,
Yeah, what
Well, all the
what
more reason to
structure
have a
do you
lower
think-
rate for the EMS for Orland versus the combined.
Yeah.
do either of you wanna weigh in on that at all, or?
I'd have to think about it.
Yeah.
I think that people, and I've been saying this for years, that people they have to start to pay for the service that we provide.
Mhm.
Just, they do. I've been talking about this for years. And
Chief,
I'll-
are you
I'll-
generally
I'll
supportive
concur
of
with
the,
Director Gagan. What's that?
are you generally supportive of the fee structure per capita as
I am.
proposed?
I am.
That's helpful to
Yeah.
know, thank you. Go ahead.
And I agree with Director Gagan. The algorithm that's presently used, I have no idea how
It's a steal.
did it as Director Gagan. I don't know if anyone else does, but that's how it's been. And I don't even know if it's correct. It's kind of, for him and I, it's kind of above our wheelhouse in some areas. We're here to provide the service. Everyone else has to figure out what we're gonna charge. I mean, we don't even do the bill count officers.
Sure.
We provide the service, get it
Yeah.
to the hospital, treat the kid. So I am not opposed to doing a per capita. I think it makes sense. And I can tell you, just for EMS responses, this past fiscal year for Orland, 271, I think we went over there. That's an increase.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, we have good response times. Our response times are 6 minutes or less, which meets national standards. And if you think about it, that's for the 3 communities. Obviously, if you live on the backside of Orland, the response time is going to be longer to get there. But the average is 6 minutes or less. I think that's amazing.
It is, yeah. And I can attest to that from my
Yes.
former role.
We worked very hard at out the door within 1 to 3 minutes of receiving that alarm, and it's done a great job, so.
Yeah, the
I
other
tend to
thing,
lean toward the full fee structure for the same reason, and I think, I mean, I understand, Chief Denning, that you guys don't do the financial accounting part of it, but your team's on the ground and takes the brunt of any decision we might make. So I just wanted to sort of take your temperature on that and see, I appreciate your input.
definitely support looking at the fee schedule. I think it's something that's probably been long overdue.
As I said, without getting into it, I have been discussing this for a few years now, that people have to pay their fair share. As far as the way we're doing it now, I was here when that come out. It was not part of putting it together, and I haven't been able to explain it to the last 4 or 5 town managers that have been here while I've been here. So I think the per capita way is the simplest way to go about it. I think that we need to be fair to the other communities, but if we're gonna provide the service, we need to be reimbursed.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is the service any different than it is for the citizens of Bucksport?
No.
Then we should charge the same.
We should,
I think,
and-
yeah.
I hesitate to say it, but because we are providing a service, we're into it, but when we're other places, we're not here, and I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I think people know the way I feel about the town, and I don't mind providing the service, but as we said, we have $900,000 in ambulances, and when we're not here, we're somewhere, and it just, we need to be reimbursed for it. It's just fair.
Thank you. Luke?
I think Denning brought up a great point in that we do have the staff upstairs doing the billing, and that's a significant amount of staff hour.
Interesting, yeah.
And that's another expense that we're covering that they don't see. And to another point to that, we hear the public saying all the time that we're overstaffed upstairs and they're all just sitting around.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, they're sitting at their desk doing.
Yeah, Luke, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's the administrative expense that we're handling upstairs. And what a lot of people don't realize is last week, we had on three consecutive nights, 3 motor vehicle accidents. 2 vehicles each one, okay? Bucksport sent to Orland 2 ambulances. When people think, oh, it's an ambulance run, it's just, no, it's all the resources that's needed to handle whether it be a rescue truck with jaws or every night was 2 ambulances. It's money. Yep.
If we move to a per capita rate, it may be helpful to the council to see what other municipalities are either charging or paying, what per capita rate they are paying. I included the town that I live in and the town that the private ambulance service that covers Winniport. They also cover Frankfort. I've included what they pay, but you've also got Belfast, which covers Swanville and Northport and Belmont, and so it could also be helpful to see what sort of rates are being paid around the state, just as so that we're staying.
That would be helpful. I also appreciate your staggered sort of phasing in if it were to go through. I think that's a good, yeah.
I did like that. But I just think it's important as this takes shape to emphasize the ambulance portion of this. Just because we are fire and ambulance with Bucksport, a portion of this is the ambulance, is what is getting changed and built. So as people see this, it's down on the peninsula. There are all the fire departments and municipalities all have mutual aid agreements like all over the state. They're all small, and there's a completely different third-party ambulance service that operates all that. It just so happens that we have our ambulance service.
Is
that
there any
covers this
other,
territory.
like you said, you could get information from other towns for comparisons of any of those towns have, what did you call those agreements?
Mutual aid.
Mutual aid
Oh.
agreements that we could look at?
No,
I mean, most towns have mutual aid agreements. I
But
mean,
with-
I think that's pretty standard
Right.
nowadays, as far as, there's a structure fire, it's not just
Right.
Winniport that's going, it's Frankfort and Hamden, and it depends on the resources that are available also.
Yeah, but I guess my question is more related to, do most towns use those mutual aid agreements as a reason not to go to a per capita system? Is that more common, or is it? I just don't know if they're the same or separate conversations.
Well, those
That's all.
towns, I think it's a separate conversation, cause those
Yeah.
towns aren't running ambulance services. That's,
Yeah.
we have one within the same employee structure,
Yeah.
within the same department. It's a asset to us as far as resource management, but it's a weakness for us when we're trying to build this, so.
So we're doing 2 things. One,
EMS mutual aid, right, for these towns. Okay, those are billed, or however you wanna look at it, through whatever means. On the fire side, we have Hancock County mutual aid agreement, okay? There's no charge, okay? All the agreement is, you call us, if we have available resources, we'll send to you, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that is just part of the agreement that we do. And we also have mutual aid with Orrington Fire and Dedham Fire as well around us too. So those type of things aren't charged for. So it's kind of,
Yes,
You help us,
that's
we'll
super
help you.
helpful. Bear
So,
with my learning
yeah.
curve on
Yep.
your billing system. Okay, this is great discussion. So I guess we table this discussion, both for, do you wanna dig into fire or just have more information on fire and ambulance?
I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and have that just at the next finance meeting.
Yep.
Great. Any other priorities that councilors wanna discuss in finance? Go ahead, Councilor Epps.
We moving on to other priorities?
Yes.
I would just like to somehow or other examine the mutual aid, the after hours, when the sheriff shuts down at 1 o'clock in the morning in Hancock County and basically we're first responders for the next 6 hours. That's basically one man year of response time that we're coming up with and trying to get some relief from the county. I'm not saying making an adjustment, but
Yeah.
reverse engineer.
Counselor Rep, just so I can add to that, we are not first responders for mutual aid to Verona.
Speak up just a little bit.
We're not first responders to Verona. We have a mutual aid agreement. We are essentially backup.
Yep.
So unless it's a severe emergency, we are still secondary. They would have to call somebody out.
Yep.
But we are the only service
I'm really
out.
talking about Hancock County and into Orland.
Gotcha.
All right, good discussions. So for our next finance meeting, it looks like we're gonna have some information related, a draft of the balance forward fund balance policy. And then some comparable information about the ambulance fire subsidy and the animal shelter subsidy. For more discussion based on the
Mutual aid.
not the mutual aid, animal shelter. So, okay, great.
One question for the manager. I'm assuming at least the animal shelter side of this, we'd be looking to get towns prepared for next budget season?
Correct.
So do you want, we wanna meet sooner rather than later with this finance committee to get that one, at least the wheels moving? Cause we wanna give them plenty of time to prepare for an increase.
We have a regularly scheduled finance committee every month now.
Well, we just talked about changing it to quarterly.
No, this is a particular type of report that
Oh,
will be
that's the
generated.
report.
Yeah,
quarterly.
still not,
Yeah,
not the meeting, but the report.
Okay, so that would still give us ample amount of time.
Yes.
any more discussion?
Take the win, that was
Yeah.
progress.
Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor?